This video will review Exam 1 Study Guide. The percentages listed in each bracket after each chapter indicates essentially the amount of points distributed in that particular chapter. So as an example, let's start with Chapter 1, Systems Approach. There'll be about 15 to 18% of the questions that will come from this chapter in a combination of multiple choice, that's what MC stands for, and an essay question. And these are the different things you'll need to know from Chapter 1. So you need to review Figure 1.4, that systems concept, and be able to identify and recognize inputs, outputs, what transformation is, examples of control and memory. You'll also want to review the different implementation management processes. So the strategic management process, which is cost, the differentiation, and focus. So there was 3 different ones that were covered. Make sure you know the differences between the 3. You need to be able to identify types of commercial food service segments and on-site segments. So this is specifically at page 11 through 18. And then be able to know what types of menus are common for each type. So as an example, a static menu would go for a commercial restaurant or commercial type food service, or those for profit. And then know how they're different from one another. So what are their goals? Are they to make money? Are they nonprofit? What kind of customers are they serving, etc. You'll need to know the different types of food service practices, difference between self-operating, contracting, partnering, franchising, and multi-department, and make sure you can define the terms equifinality and synergy. In Chapter 3, you have 25 to 28% of the questions coming from this chapter in a combination of multiple choice and an essay question. So be able to understand and identify what primary control means in this chapter. And understand eye gaze motion. You don't need to know the exact pattern that's shown in the textbook, but you need to be able to understand that there is a specific psychology behind eye gaze motion, where your eye starts in a menu, where it lands and where it ends, and how that affects what people order. You'll need to be able to identify some factors when considering menu planning, particularly that first factor, customer satisfaction. Be able to identify some sustainability efforts that can be made when developing a menu. The use of plate waste surveys and why they are used and what they can be used for. And then for the cultural religious food practices, you'll need to zone in on kosher and Seventh-day Adventist. So we didn't review these in class. You'll need to see the slides and review that on your own. Chapter 4. You have 30 to 32% of the questions from the exam coming from this chapter, and they're all multiple choice. So there are no specific essay questions for this. So you need to understand and be able to explain the differences between the different types of food services we talked about: conventional, cook-chill, commissary, heat and eat. You need to be able to identify the following and maybe even define the following terms: sous vide, single-use menu, static, and cycle, and how they're different between each other. Specifically, static and cycle, how they're different. And then centralized versus decentralized meal service, understanding how they're similar and different. This is specific to conventional. Chapter 6, you have food production, 30 to 32% of the exam from here, both multiple choice and essay. So you'll need to be able to define forecasting and identify different types of forecasting models. Moving averages, know that it's a time series model. Same thing with exponential smoothing, that's a time series model. You will have a question that you'll need to calculate a moving average, so make sure you review that piece. And be able to understand the difference between over and under production and where it is valuable or could be detrimental to a food production facility. You have ingredient control, so why you'd want to have ingredient control in place, some advantages and the disadvantages, what functions it plays, and what kind of things do you need in an ingredient control room. You do need to be able to do some quantity adjustment methods, factor versus percentage. There might be even a question on determining what a factor is for a particular recipe. How to calculate edible purchase using yields. So you may need to go back to some of your 343 information to remember how to calculate an EP using AP and yields. I would provide you the yield in the question. You're not going to need to know yields of each specific type of food item. Okay, that would be given to you. And then the process of standardizing a recipe, why food service operations use standardized recipes, their importance, and how to develop a standardized recipe. And you'll also need to review briefly the school lunch presentation. There's a few multiple choice and essay questions on this, but identifying a meal pattern requirements for school. So doing your school lunch assignment, this should be pretty easy for you to identify and pull out. And then think about different challenges that a K through 12 food service director might encounter in their position. Things that are challenging, such as menu planning, customer satisfaction, managing staff, etc.